Welcome back to Sports Talk ATL. I am Chase Earl, joined by Jake Gordon and Alex Lord. Friday night, the Falcons played their first preseason game. The starters didn't get much run. Some of them did, though, and the guys that did play as starters, I thought looked really good. Tay Davis, I'm outside of maybe Mike Hughes, but D. Alford was fantastic. Had a critical pass breakup, returns one for a touchdown. Overall, this defense, DeMarco Hellams made some plays. The rookies made some plays. Ryan Nielsen's defense, I know it's just a preseason game. You're not taking too much into it, but in the red zone, they got critical stops, several fourth down stops, and interception. I said it before, by the end of the preseason, Ryan Nielsen's going to be getting head coaching offers if he keeps looking like this. But obviously joking, but I thought like for a first preseason game without the starters, I think they played about as well as you possibly could have asked for. Even Logan Woodside, he's never going to get some run, but he made some passes. Like he looked like a competent backup quarterback. Excited to see what this group looks like when the starters play against the Bengals, but I don't think there's much to complain about in just one preseason game.
Yeah, definitely. 100%. That's exactly what I thought. Even, you could talk about, it's just the backups. It's just the backups. All right, well, the defense looked competent. And the fact of the matter is, some of those guys are going to be playing. The injuries are going to happen. Guys are going to rotate in, especially somebody like D. Alford. You look at the injuries the Falcons have already had at cornerback. It was really nice to see somebody like D. Alford flying all over the place.
Yeah, I think it certainly does matter. A lot of people don't put too much weight into preseason, but for the longest time, the Falcons have been a top-heavy roster. And for the first time in a while, it feels like there's solid depth at most every position. There are some offensive line could use more depth. The linebacker position could use more depth. But for the most part, the depth is what shined. And that's what shines through in preseason is – the Dolphins did not look like they had a lot of depth on their roster, whereas the Falcons definitely did, particularly along the defensive front. The defensive front looked absolutely unreal. Timmy Horn, who's going to make the roster, he's going to have some playing time. As a run-stuffing nose tackle, had several good plays. Chase mentioned the rookies, specifically Zach and Harrison, looked really, really good. I couldn't have been more wrong on a player than Zach Harrison. When he came out, first of all, the kid was, one of the 5 best recruits coming out of high school, went to Ohio State, who is heralded for producing this exact position. The Bosa's, everybody before Zach Harrison. And then Zach Harrison he didn't flop by any means, but he definitely didn't live up to, the notable high school recruit that he was. So I didn't put too much weight into it. I just thought, this is a project. Ryan Nielsen has been, heralded for his ability to develop this exact position. You can think of Cam Jordan, Trey Hendrickson. The list goes on. So I thought there was definitely a possibility that he could turn into a contributor. He is already looking like he's going to establish himself in the rotation. It might not be a starting caliber role. It might not be significant, but he is playing himself into the rotation. That was super encouraging to see. Chase mentioned DeMarco Hellams, another guy that I really didn't think, had a shot at even establishing himself. He's a fringe roster guy when I first looked at him. And once again, it's just, maybe it's not the combine speed, the size, but he just is a good football player. He's around the football, makes plays when he was called upon. He had that interception in the end zone, I think on the first drive, maybe the second drive. I don't know. I don't remember exactly. But all in all, super encouraging. All the investment made on the defensive side of the ball, whether it's Ryan Nielsen, the defensive front, the depth, it shined through and it showed it's been a positive return early on.
Yeah, I think the depth of the group is something we talked about all offseason. We saw it in that first preseason game. Like they finally have a competent roster top to bottom. There's going to be guys on this team that would have made the roster with ease last year that aren't going to make the roster, especially across the defensive front. The cornerback room, I think D. Alford has a very good chance of starting, especially with Clark Phillips. I know he's back at practice and stuff and should play in the next game, but that's going to be a good competition, and that's good competition to have, especially with Jeff Okudah already down with an injury. I thought overall positive, and I think more than anything, it's just another thing, the feeling around Flowery Branch, the feeling around this team coming in the offseason that there was positive momentum, and just to keep that going. I know it's just one preseason game. We're not going to look back at this anything ridiculous, but I do think just keeping that momentum churning forward, it just feels positive around there. You can just tell on Twitter. People were excited. People were excited to watch the game. Like there's been very few times where me over the last 4 years where I've gone into preseason week 1 and been like, yeah, like I really care about what happens. No, I was interested to see how those guys played because those guys are going to have an impact. And I think this team could finally make the playoffs and make the postseason. And there's positive. I expect week 1. I know we already have tickets to the game, Alex. I expect it to be a much better atmosphere. I expect there to be just some life around the team. And I think you can start to feel it. And I'm really excited about these next few preseason games. And week 1, I can't get here fast enough.
Yeah, you could tell just from how the coaching staff feels. Arthur Smith, I mean, how many times have we heard him or just seen him, let alone what he's saying? This is the most fun he's had. He looks like a different coach. He looks like he's actually enjoying the team. It's not disrespectful in any way, but it is kind of funny for him to be like, this feels like an actual team. Whereas like the ones led by Matt Ryan and Marcus Mariota just weren't. And it's true. I mean, it was just a bunch of ragtag rentals that, weren't really anything, just journeymen on 1-year free agent deals and then the leftovers from the last regime. Whereas now we're starting to see, the vision, the roster construction of the new regime coming together. That's not to say there weren't negatives, because there certainly was. Jalen Mayfield looked terrible. I mean, his spot, if the offensive line's depth was just even a little bit better, Jalen Mayfield probably wouldn't make this roster. But it's so bad that like he probably is going to make the roster.
I don't know if I had a dream or this actually came up. I don't know if this was a dream or it actually came up, but they said Tyler Vrabel was stepping in with the 2s. Did you see that on Twitter?
You told me. I didn't see it, but you told me that Jalen Mayfield had been knocked down a peg. So 3rd, 4th stringers while Vrabel stepped
Which, if that's true, I mean, I think that's the writing on the wall for his roster. Now, he could earn it back over these next few weeks, and I'm sure that's going to be one of the focal points of the next few weeks. But I think we're definitely looking at that experiment, even at right tackle, moving on, and he could be gone. Coming up after the break, we're going to talk about someone that already was gone. The Falcons cut a former 4th-round pick, Michael Walker. What does that mean for the linebacker position group going forward?